Hey, I'm T.A. Charlie, and welcome to The Road to Concord with Professor Joe Bakanovic. Homeroom is on Rumble. You just go to Rumble and search the channels for The Road to Concord. It's one word. When you find it, you go ahead and you click follow. It might mean you got to set up an account, but it's fast, it's easy, it's free. I did it, you can do it. For those technologically challenged members of the class, you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. After the show, it's uploaded to Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and BitChute. Just look for The Road to Concord. You can go to the blog page, that's theroadtoconcord.com. That's where you'll find all your show notes, study notes, and handouts for the class. The phone is working. If you don't know how to call in, email us and we'll think about it. Finally, you can email a professor at joe@theroadtoconcord.com. He's a little slow, but he'll eventually get around to emailing you back. This show is currently mainly listener-sponsored. If you are interested in advertising your business on the show, please email us. With that said, we ask for your participation on a value-for-value basis. If you find our show of value to you, then you provide an equivalent portion of your labor and treasure through the donate link on the Road to Concord blog page, the show description on Rumble, and in the comments on the other streams. And thank you to all of you who have and will support this show.
Good morning. Welcome to the Road to Concord. Today is March 5th, 2026. I'm your host, Joe Bakanovic. Today we're continuing in our book study, The Bible Amongst the Myths. It's a book meant to explain why the Bible doesn't fit the definition of mythology. Most of you have been with us from the start of this book study. But for those who might just have stumbled across this, we're not approaching it so much as a religious teaching. The author, I believe it's Oswald. I don't have the book in front of me. The author has some definitions in here. The book is divided into two sections. So one section is on worldview, what he calls continuous versus transcendent. And the other section is on history. And what I found to be especially helpful is that when you read and pay attention to what he's explaining, it goes a long way to explain the two different types of people we see in the world in this sense. And for a believer, it goes a long way to help you separate those who really belong to the truth, capital T truth, and those who are just playing at it. So without too much further ado, let's just get ourselves back in here. This is my Kindle. And I'm going to go back and we'll review the last section and then continue and finish chapter 3. This is a subtitle, The Low View of Humanity. We're talking about the continuous worldview, which by the definition that the author here is using, that is basically the definition of paganism. All pagans have a continuous worldview. If you have a continuous worldview, you are pagan. It's not meant to be derogatory. It's not meant as a pejorative here or an insult or anything. This is definitional. Fire's hot, water's wet type thing. So Oswald goes here. He says, the list of commonalities goes on, common traits between the continuous worldview. There is a uniformly low view of humanity within myths and within the continuous worldview and mythology. Humans were created to serve the gods, and to a significant degree, their creation was an afterthought. In the Babylonian creation myth, they are created to feed the gods after the gods have been fixed in heaven and can no longer care for themselves. In one of the Egyptian versions, humans are merely the tears of Atum that fell, or Autumn, that fell into the dust during his struggle with chaos. It is not hard to understand where such an understanding comes from if we are reasoning from life as we see it. Humans seem insignificant when we look at the world of nature. Therefore, we're an afterthought in the God's eyes. Furthermore, humans have no real control over their destinies, or so it appears in the continuous worldview. Choice seems to be an illusion. So, folks, so that you understand what I'm looking at here, if you're a believer, and hopefully you are, when we hear this idea that you're born, whether you're going to be saved or not, you're born that way. You're born saved or you're not saved. That the doctrine of choice, elect, I was always going to be saved. There's a group of people who profess themselves believers that think that that was just destiny. That's continuous worldview thinking. That's not transcendent thinking. So at best, those are babe believers who still haven't opened their eyes. I mean, like animal babies, newborn puppies that haven't opened their eyes yet. At best. And they don't even see it. Because the idea that the creator of this universe would create some people to be saved and some people to be damned goes against everything he says in his revealed word in the Bible. That would not be Yahweh. That's just not his nature. So the people who I've run into who say they can prove that your destiny is fixed from the day you're born or before you're even born, I never understood how they're doing that. Now I realize what it is they're still trapped in a continuous worldview. They're still thinking like pagans. They're not transcendent. They're not of the spirit. So this is the type of thing I'm getting out of this book. I'm letting it act as a springboard for my thinking. Where else can I go with this? Oswald continues, given the fact that this visible realm is but a reflection of the real invisible realm, one must merely play the part that is given to a person with as much nobility as possible. Since there is no choice, of course, there is no responsibility. So if you have no choice in what you do, you're not responsible for what you do. And therefore, you don't have to worry about living a good life or a bad life. It's not your fault. And we see that in a lot of people today. It's my upbringing, it's my social status, it's my financial situation. It's always something other than us. And this is also in the communist and socialist way of thinking with money. Say the reason you're poor is because the rich stole it from you. It's not your fault. Anyhow, that is a worldly way of thinking. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
It goes all the way back to the garden. Adam, what did you do? That woman, Eve, what did you do? That serpent,
snake. Yeah,
nothing's changed.
Yep. Nothing's changed. So your fate may be good or bad, but that has little to do with you. Even in Hinduism, the hope of one day getting off the wheel of existence and being absorbed back into nothingness is a small hope. If you are a low caste person, there is no way you can better your lot in this life. You are locked in, doomed by something unknown and unremembered, and probably insignificant on anything but a magical level. And this is why in the Hindus, if you're low caste, the best you can do with your life is learn to live in harmony with your low caste state. Just learn to accept your fate and live within it. That is a very Eastern Asian way of thinking and looking at things. That is not a biblical way, or even Middle Eastern. If humanity is insignificant, then individual humans are truly insignificant. This is logical extension. In a worldview of continuity, individual elements only have significance to the degree that they reflect the norm. But what makes us individual is precisely the degree to which we vary from the norm. Thus, our individual characteristics, our unique personalities, are of no importance to the continuous mindset. In Japan, they have a saying that perfectly illustrates this. The protruding nail gets hammered flat, meaning the nail that sticks up from the floor gets smacked back down into the ground. Sticking up means being an individual, sticking out from the crowd. That the Tiananmen Square incident where that gentleman, in the black pants and the white shirt and holding the bag stands in front of the tank, that he was a protruding nail. He's operating outside of the norm. And this is very apparent if you study Eastern Asian cultures. They all strive to conform with society. The individual doesn't matter that much. And there is a sense of that in the Middle East, but there is also individuality. There's a duality to the Middle East that's more apparent in their social structure than it is in the Eastern societies. So this is what he's pointing out. This is very continuous world thinking. This is very pagan, very materialistic way of thinking. So in a worldview of continuity, individual elements only have significance to the degree that they reflect the norm. But what makes us individuals is precisely the degree to which we vary from the norm. Thus, our individual characteristics, our unique personalities, are of no importance. This is the group think. The individual drop of water is nothing. It is only the ocean that truly matters. And this is why these group of people always try to community organize. They want to put people in pigeonholes. What group do you belong to? Because that's how they think. So whenever somebody treats you like a member of a group rather than an individual, you're dealing with somebody who is thinking primarily of the continuous worldview way of thinking. And I know earlier I started the show with you're one group or the other. You're either continuous or transcendent. Well, that's definitional. That's not conceptual. And I know it might sound like this is a distinction without a difference, but that's what I'm trying to explain to you. It's a different way of thinking. A definition of transcendent, above and beyond, continuous, only below, only material. Those are definitions. Definitions define the word. And the word helps you to, explain and discuss the concept behind the word. That's what we're looking at. And in some cases, this duality is real. It does exist. But if I'm going to run throughout a society saying, okay, well, you're a black and you're a white and you're a Hispanic or whatever. Oh, but you can't be Hispanic. You got to be a white Hispanic all because of your skin color rather than your culture or your, this type of thing. That's group identity. This is going to help explain the balkanization on group identities that we see in this society today, and why, if you try to go against the flow within that identity, that even the group will turn on itself and eat itself. And this is why the left, the political left in the West, tends to eat itself. And it also explains why the political right is just a herd of cats. The closer you get to libertarianism, the closer you get to a whole bunch of individual gods running around ruling their own worlds. And the closer you get to, the left, total communism, the closer you get to Babylon. But both end up in Babylon. Left or right ends up in Babylon. And that's in the Bible. Wander neither to the left or turn not to the left or to the right. Stay on the path. The path is in the middle. This is exactly what the founding fathers found when they were developing our country. So the individual drop of water is nothing. It is only the ocean that truly matters. So it is that which we have in common with everyone else that is truly important. This, of course, accords with the law of continuity. We exist in that we reflect the ideal humanity. Our differences for that ideal do not make us somewhat special. They make us nobody. Thus, the casual attitude toward individual human beings in much of the world is not the result of some calculated brutality. It is a result of the way of thinking about reality. And this is why life is cheap, especially in places that are dominated by continuous thinking, worldly, earthly thinking, which is more and more and more of the world these days. So it says no single standard of ethics. In myth or continuous world thinking, in myth, there is no single standard of ethics. Now, Oswald is using ethics and morality interchangeably. If you've been with me any length of time, you know I do not agree with this. Morality is universal, applying to all moral agents throughout time and place. It's a transcendent idea. Ethics is a man-made idea. That's how I differentiate these two. But that's just mine. If you've been here for a while, you know we went through that argument one time. And I think if you look at it, you'll realize that there's something to my argument. So again, in myth, there is no single standard of ethics. Again, reasoning from the given to the divine would not allow such a thing. There are many gods and goddesses, and each of these gods has varying likes and dislikes. Furthermore, the visible world did not come into existence as a result of a divine will or purpose. As a result, it becomes impossible to say that there is a single standard of right and wrong that is everywhere applicable. What one God wants, another God hates. So it's clear that there cannot be any single standard of ethical behavior that has some universal divine warrant behind it. Now, the reasoning here is because there are many gods, and there must be. I mean, look, you got a god of storm, and you got a god of the ocean, you got a god of this and a god of that. So you don't have a single god, so there can be no single governing law. Say, well, okay, well, Zeus is the king of the gods. Yeah, but there are other gods that are constantly warring against him. And he has to maintain order through constant struggles. This is the continuous worldview. And that constant struggle means that there's no right and wrong. So, and there are different gods over the nations, and this God wants you to do this, and this God wants you to do that. So what's right in your country may not be right in mine, which is exactly what we have in our world today. What's right for you might not be right for me. Well, that's declaring yourself to be a God unto yourself. You're saying there is no moral standard that applies to everybody. But have you ever noticed that the people who say that are telling you that there is a universal moral standard in the fact of telling you that? The universal moral standard is that there is no universal moral standard. It sounds like gobbledygook until you stop and think about this for a minute. If I tell you that there is no idea of right and wrong that applies to everybody, that's a standard. You're saying the standard is there is no standard. Well, that's still a standard. It's a self-contradicting statement, and it leads to absurdities. And that's why all of these people who utter this stupid phrase, what's right for you is okay, but what's right for me? I know they're all for tolerance until you say something they disagree with. And then all of a sudden, you're the one who has to get in line. Our rainbow jihad is a perfect example of this. Give them what they want, or else you're the one who's wrong. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with. Nevertheless, it is given that no society can survive for long unless all its members subscribe to a single standard of ethics. Thus, we find in the Mesopotamian Hittite societies several law codes that are now more or less well known. These standards were frequently given force by having it said that they derived from a god. But obedience to these standards was not a religious obligation. Indeed, ethics and religion had no practical connection in the end. Ethics were a social and civil matter only. All right, let me tie this to the unseen realm. You got the god of Babylon, Marduk. You got the god of the Canaanites, Baal. You got the god of Egypt, Ra. What's right for the Egyptian society, it depends on what Ra claims he wants. What's right for the Canaanites depends on what Baal says he wants. What's right for the Babylonians depends on what Marduk says he wants. What's right for a Hebrew who has a transcendent worldview, one single El Elyon, God Most High, one creator. What's right for all of humanity is what Yahweh says he wants. Totally different worldview. Paradigm altering, world shaking, oh my gosh, what the heck, where did this come from type of worldview. And when you bring that into the ancient Near East, you're going to have a fight over that, because it's like what I was trying to explain the other day. I've got believers in my congregation. I bring them a different way of looking at their scriptures, and they push back against it because it goes against what they've accepted as true. And I bring them things and they just push back. They won't listen to it. They won't consider it. The first instinct is auto protect. Okay, fine. I understand what I'm dealing with, but I also see this in the world today. The woke group. You can't get through to somebody like this. They don't want to hear it. They won't listen to it. They won't consider it. And that's because to them, you're going against their cultural norms, against the way they were raised to or taught to believe and listen to things and to act. And it's a clash of cultures. And you've got to get somebody to stop and listen with their rational mind. And that is not easy to do, especially if you've got somebody who doesn't recognize transcendent reason. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's this argument, you're not allowing me to be my authentic self, and that's, also being their own God, as you point out, versus someone that says, I'm bending my knee to Yahweh and his will alone. That's the two ideas that are being brought forward here.
To the transcendent truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's your God? Yourself, or your made up God, or are you bowing your will to the God, Yahweh El Elyon? So that's the simplicity of this. Once you get this and you see it, it really does help you to see through things pretty quickly. And it's disturbing sometimes.
And by the way, this is just an incidental about your teacher, or the one you're studying with here. I get a lot of people upset with me because I'll be presented with something, and Charlie can give me a second witness on this. I'll sort through things lightning fast that most people might wrestle with for days. I'll sort it and file it where it belongs in a hurry. All I've done is understood concepts like this. So when you present me with something, a person comes to me and they're giving me an argument, I'll go, are you transcendent or continuous? Because the minute I know what you're doing, I know where to put you. And
Yeah.
I know what Oswald just says. That's continuous thinking, Joe. No. This is conceptual files. So if I know how you're thinking, I know how to filter where you're going with your arguments or with your comments.
Yeah,
And
I always envied you and the way you could do that. And now that I'm seeing this worldview, I'm starting to be able to do some of it on my own. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
And the more
I can see right through things real quick, and it's like, oh my gosh, this.
Well, welcome to being an arrogant know-it-all, Charlie.
Yeah. And
not arrogant.
We've got a singer in the group here, so.
Stop!
John,
hey, what's that sound? Everybody, look what's going down. Yes. All right. So the more you study this, and this is the whole point of the shows we've done, where we tell you work out your own personal worldview. Work it out. The more you study this, and the more you work with this, and the better you understand, the quicker you're going to do this yourself. And it'll help you, if nothing else. It helps you better understand how to deal with whomever or whatever you're confronted with. So the more you study your scriptures, and the more you start thinking transcendently, what the scriptures call spiritually, the quicker and easier work you will make of the problems in the world that confront you on a daily basis. And that brings peace. That brings security, peace of mind, comfort. So, yeah. Oswald's going to continue. Cyclical concept of existence. A final common feature of myths that I wish to mention is the cyclical concept of existence. Now, this is an important feature. Life, as most persons know it, in actual experience, is a series of cycles that do not show any obvious progress. The most immediate one is the 24-hour day, and the next to most immediate one is the 365-day year. I would say that there's a month, then the year. But there is another cycle that is less obvious, but is equally pervasive. It is one most of us do not like to think much about. This is the one that extends from non-existence to dependence, to independence, to dependence, to non-existence, the cycle of life. Thus, it is not surprising that world myth is uniform in imagining reality to be a continually turning wheel that comes from nowhere and goes nowhere. You know, the circle of life in the Lion King? That is very paganistic, very continuous world thinking. That is not a biblical way of thinking. The chapter that comes after this is extremely enlightening if you've been through this chapter first and paid attention. The next chapter goes through the biblical thinking, and it shows the contrast. So Oswald says the part is only significant insofar as it shows us continuities that will repeat themselves. Thus, omens are of great importance, because omens tell you that this is all going to repeat. Well, the Bible doesn't do that. Okay, the Bible gives you singular omens that's not repeating. The Bible gives you signs, not omens, signs. And when you understand things, the scriptures treat these things differently than the rest of the world does. Back to Oswald. At some time in the past, the shape of the entrails of a sacrificed animal coincided with some significant event. If that shape should present itself again, we may expect the same event to happen again. Thus, the past will repeat itself, and it is helpful to have information on hand to plan for that repetition. But the idea that the past might be transcendent and that hitherto unknown events could occur is not within the myth maker's concept of reality. The shape of reality is determined by now, and now is going nowhere. Did y'all see? In their way of thinking, reality is only the now. Never yesterday, never tomorrow. Now, the best one I know to pick on is the socialist. They never look backwards and say, well, it didn't work. To the extent that they look backwards and say, well, that's just because he didn't do it right. They never look forward to see the effect of what they're doing today. The only thing that exists for them is the now. That is a child. That is, and I mean a dangerous child. That's a toddler. And worse than that, that's a toddler running around with the trigger of a nuclear weapon. Sooner or later, that little toddler is going to hit the button. But these are the types of people who are in charge of our country right now.
Yep,
in our
rules for
society.
radicals.
Yes, rules for radicals. Or Machiavelli. So that's continuous worldview thinking, folks. And now we've got these cycles even in the scriptures. But here's the difference. For the continuous worldview thinker, the cycles have no purpose at all. To the transcendent thinker, the weekly cycle has a purpose. Okay? And the monthly cycle has a purpose, and the yearly cycle has purpose, and they're going somewhere. It's not just an eternal continuing wheel. It's a sine wave, like Charlie likes to say. It's up and down cycles, not like this, but up and down, up and down. The sine wave is going somewhere. The circle of life can just sit in one place and spin. That's a very different concept. So it's a different way of thinking about the same things. And this is how Yahweh built the universe, so that you can ignore him or see and accept him at the same time. So this is how he puts himself right in plain view and allows you to keep your faith. He preserves faith by doing it this way. So if you don't have faith in the transcendent, well, I can't see that. Well, you can't see logic or the rules for language, but you use them. Well, yeah, but I can hear language. You can't hear the rules behind it. But they're there. You don't hear the rules of mathematics, but I see them on the chalkboard. No, you don't. You see the symbols that represent them. The words are the symbols that represent the concept. So I hope this is making sense to you, that the distinction here is that the continuous worldview treats the things they see as real, not the concepts. So it's the visual that's real, not the concept. To a transcendent, the concept is more real than the visual. I hope that makes sense. All right, let's continue. In this chapter, we have considered the phenomenon of myth. We have considered the common features that occur in the myths of the ancient Near East, up to and including the Roman myths. But it is a fact that the similar features can be found in myths from other places in the Near East. We have suggested that this is all because all of them begin with the same starting point, the visible world, and operate on the same premise. This world takes the shape it does because it's a mirror image of the invisible world. Hinduism sees this world as a dream of Vishnu. Plato saw it as almost endless series of reflections, with each one getting a little farther from reality. If one begins with this world and assumes the principles of continuity, as all of the world's myths do, it should not be surprising if the results of this process are remarkably similar. What I am saying is that there is a common principle of knowledge underlying myth-making. That principle is that humans may discover ultimate reality by extrapolating from their own experience upon the assumptions that their experience is identical with that reality. When they do that, they arrive all over the world at a remarkably similar understanding of reality. So in other words, if you start at the same place and you think continuous earthly world thinking, everybody's going to arrive at the same place, start thinking the same way. In other words, you're all going to end up eating different flavors of ice cream, but it'll still be ice cream. Now, transcendent worldview, things get a lot different. So that's going to be the end of this chapter. And for the most part, this is going to be the end of what we're going to do today. So if you're here just for the book study, class dismissed. If not, I've got some life musings that I want to share with you, and a little bit of political pastoral commentary I want to make about a couple stories in the news, and I'll cover them when we come back after the bottom of the hour break. So we're going to take a 3-minute break. We'll come back. I'll cover that, and then we'll call it a day. And tomorrow we'll do Judah's scepter and Joseph's birthright. We'll see you in 3 minutes. So Deltaro says to leave the singing to the professionals, addressing me and Charlie, I guess. You're right, Deltaros. I can't sing to save my life, except for one thing. I can sing cadence. That I can do. All right, folks. A couple of things real quick. Let me get the personal stuff out of the way, and then I'll address what I wanted to address with you. I've had a rough week. About 14 years ago, just shy, these two little guys come to be part of our family. As you're looking at the picture, that's Chip on the left and Chief on the right. They were, litter mates, brothers. Chip was my TV watching buddy, but we had to say goodbye to him about 4 years ago, 2022. And his brother, Chief, has been pretty much a constant companion of mine since then. And yesterday we had to say goodbye to him. He had heart failure. And it's been a little rough around here, especially since today. This is Chief. That's my boy. Today's my birthday, and that's no big deal. Don't get me wrong. I don't need anything for that. My birthday is not a big deal to me. I don't celebrate it. Never really have. And now that I understand the connections, the spiritual connections, it means even less to me. But tomorrow's my wife's birthday, BB's, and her birthday means a little bit more to her. And she has just been taking blow after blow for the last few years. And her mother just a week ago got out of hospital. She'd been there since the 23rd of December, in and out of the hospital in rehab. She had pneumonia and then a couple of other infections that almost killed her. And my wife's an only child. And this has been a good thing for her, my wife, in that it's made her appreciate her mother, made her much closer to her mother. And that I like, that I appreciate. But the loss of my little buddy here has got me thinking. I mean, I'm walking around the house today, and there's a hole in this house. He weighed 27 pounds. Not a big deal. And for the last 6, 7, 8 months, he hasn't been very, he's been sick. So he laid around most of the time. And I had nothing but compassion for him. And I realized that I treat my animals more like I should treat people than I treat people. Even the ones that are a big part of my life that I care about, that I would miss. You have a classmate that joins the show every now and then. Bolt Weevil is his screen name. He likes to say that I'm a sociopath. And to the extent that he means it, I understand, and he's not wrong. But to the extent that you're thinking mass murderer, no. This is a part of my brokenness. But my animals, our pets, and if you're a farmer especially, they should teach us. They're not a helper suitable for man like woman is, but they're here to teach us lessons. And they can be some of the most powerful lessons. In the Passover, you got to bring the lamb into the house for, what's it, Charlie, 4 days before you slaughter it? Or is it 10? I don't remember. But you get
4 days.
4
10th
days.
of the month, Passover's on the 14th.
You're going to bind that. You're going to get kind of fond of that animal. So when you slaughter it, it's going to ouch. If there's a heart in you at all, it'll ouch. And I've learned over time, this is one of the ways I sort people. If you're mean to an animal, gosh, I can't imagine how you treat people. And if an animal doesn't like you, I'm going to be really cautious around you. Okay? I learned from them. I probably learned more important lessons from my pets than I've ever learned from other humans. And what I've learned is about myself. I am a very, very broken creature. We all are. I know. I understand. But oh boy, I watch all of y'all when I'm around you in person. Those of you who know me. And you're either better actors than I am, actors and actresses, or you're much better people than I am. And I know you're going to tell me, no, you're not, but I'm sorry. In this case, I tend to be more observant than most of y'all, and I tend to be broken in a way that lets me judge those things better than most of y'all. And in a general, yeah, you're all better than I am. Which makes me wonder, why the heck am I sitting here teaching Yahweh's people? And I know the answer to that too, but that doesn't make it easy to accept. The answer was, I was on the floor one time just begging him to use me for whatever he wanted. I'd do it. Stuck my hand in the air and said, here am I, Lord, send me. So he reached back in my history where I boasted that I would never, ever teach. I was just never going to be a teacher. Look at where I'm at. Don't tell Yahweh what you're not going to do. That's actually a scripture. Don't say what you will or won't do. Just say if Yahweh wills it. So it's with this heavy heart and this trouble that I run across this. This is from the news source. Child sex offender running for office in California holds a press conference outside an elementary school. There's a part of me that wants to perform my secretarial duties as a Marine. Again, your classmate Boat Weevil. He calls me a secretary, a glorified secretary, because I was a Marine. If you ever ask him what he means, he says, we arrange appointments between you and your maker. So what I'm saying is there's a part of me that wants to send him to go meet the Messiah so he can be judged. But I'm more worried about how is it that he has the financial support to even run for office? Because he's been at this for a little while now. I've been tracking this story. What type of person supports a man like this? What type of evil, what type of depravity must possess you? We are of two worlds, two very different worlds. But then on a lighter note, I see the Bigfoot video where he's being interviewed, about pedophiles and everything, Epstein client list and everything, and said, well, what do you think we should do with Epstein in the client list? How do you think, would he have been okay with Islam or blah, blah, blah? And the punchline of the joke is that, no, because if, do you think that this would have happened if Epstein had been a Muslim? And Bigfoot says, well, no, because then he would have been a prophet, meaning he'd have been Muhammad. And if you don't get the joke, that's because Muhammad's quote unquote favorite wife, he married her when she was 6 years old. And he was in his 60s or late 50s. And he consummated that when she was 9. So Islam now will marry little girls at the age of 6, consummate it when they're 9. And within their society, if it's under Sharia law, the girl doesn't have a choice. Her dad can give her that. In my world, that's just rape. It's rape of a child. And the scriptures tell me to protect that child. And the Gideon in me wants to start making arrangements for you to meet the Messiah. Then there's this story. It's from Gateway Pundit. This. I've got to remember that he's one of Yahweh's creations. This is James Tallarico. Brothers and sisters, you are looking at the face of a wolf. This man is preaching God, the Bible, but he is preaching blasphemies, heresies. This is a wolf. Now, he's a Democrat running as a quote unquote Christian. I think he's in Texas. If he ever crossed paths with me, he would have a John the Baptist on his hands if he was lucky. He's more than likely to have a Levite on his hands with a sword strapped to my side. And if you don't know your biblical stories, that doesn't go well for you if you're an enemy of Yahweh. This is how the Levites got the priesthood. They went around slaughtering the members of the congregation that had turned apostate. Well, I'm more likely to let the pedophile live before letting this guy live. This man is doing great harm to the kingdom because he's preaching that, well, God is love and he doesn't care about homosexuality and that the Bible never condemns that or the transgendered rainbow jihad garbage. Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. But what bothers me most is the number of people who think they're saved, who follow this man and people like him. title of the story is God is non-binary. Our trans community needs abortion care too. Evil. Evil. Look, he looks like the devil, right? That's the face of evil, brothers and sisters. That's the face of evil. Now, let me ask you something. I mean, he's not an ugly person. He doesn't look scarred. He doesn't look like he's wild or crazy or anything. You know, looks like a clean-cut individual, right? If that's evil, and he's great evil, and you can't recognize evil when you see it because you've been taught to look for something that looks like the devil, red, ugly, horns, pointy tail. Your discernment is sorely lacking. And I'm not necessarily talking to you in this audience. I'm talking to the ones who support this man. We're in a society that was originally biblically based. Now I think we are smacking the crosshairs of Jeremiah's warnings to both kingdoms, the northern and southern. And I look at the world and I see nothing but growing darkness and lawlessness. And I know that I have got to fight every day not to let my love for my fellow man, even the ones I know are in the camp of the enemy, I have to still have that agape love for them. I cannot let my love grow cold. I have to fight this fight until the day I die. I know I'll lose it. I know I'll lose this fight. I cannot overcome these things. I am a fallen, flawed, sinful human being. I need the Messiah and his Father, the Messiah to wash me clean and testify for me as my defense lawyer. And I need the Father to see his Son and not me. Otherwise, I will be burned up. And I know it. I have no hope except for those two who are one. And I see people in the church mouthing these words all the time. And I watch what they do. And I realize they're liars. And I wonder, do they even realize that they're lying? Can they even see their own lies when they're lying to themselves? And how do you help people see that? And I've come to realize you can't. That's the biggest struggle of the faith that I walk. Lest the Spirit help you, you're never going to see this. Now, you can develop a desire to find it. The scripture says, if you seek him, but you have to sincerely decide you want to seek him. You've got to tell yourself, I must find, capital T, truth. That's the first point. Then you will find that truth, and that truth will lead you directly to the Son, and the Son will lead you to the Father. You'll find it. Even if you don't know their names, you'll find them. Because you'll know their shem, their character, their nature. And if you think you belong to them, but that shem does not shine out of you and you do not reflect it, then you are sadly mistaken. You say, well, the Holy Spirit forgives me everything. Only if you repent. And if you repent, you're struggling not to repeat. If more of us worried about the reflection in our mirrors and making that person conform to the identity of Yeshua Messiah, I don't know that I would have those two stories to share with you, because the pedophile would be in jail if he still breathed. And the blasphemer, well, at the very least, he wouldn't have a political career to think about, but he might be in jail as well. Because you realize, folks, had that man been around in the time of our founding fathers, they would have jailed him for blasphemy. That was the law when this country came to be. Blasphemy got you jailed. But we have fallen for so many lies that I am not sure that as a people we're capable of seeing truth anymore. So even if Yahweh sent us a leader to lead us into revival, we would slay him, just like we have slayed all the other prophets he sent to call us back home to repentance. Because in our world, it would be much more comfortable to take the seat of Yahweh for ourselves and say in our own hearts that we will be like the Most High, and we'll make our own name in our own kingdom through the sweat of our own brow and our own military might and our own ideas of right and wrong. And then I'm thinking back to my dog. He was headstrong and stubborn. He's a schnauzer. But in the end, when it mattered, he trusted in me and my wife to take care of everything for him. When there was a thunderstorm, he came running to me. When he was sick or he had an injury or he was hungry or he needed something nurturing, he went running to my wife. There's a lesson to be learned there for me in how I should respond to the Father and Son. When I need nurturing, comfort, I need to run to the Messiah because he knows he's lived this life in the flesh. And when I need protection, truth, wisdom, and guidance, I should be running to the Father. And trusting in them in the exact same way that my poor puppy trusted in us. He was a blessing. More so that I've learned a lesson through him. Now, if I can just hold on to it. Charlie, you got anything for us?
You just might want to let people know Monday, both of us are going to be out of town.
I forgot about that. I'm sorry. My brain is not.
That's okay. That's okay. But just so you know what our plans are, because it's going to be a little bit different on Monday, because this afternoon, right after the show, most probably, I'll be recording a show to basically take the place of that on Monday. It's going to be just a local recording. And then Natasha, our AI, will upload that either Sunday or Monday before the show normally starts, but it won't be a live show. It's going to be a pre-recorded one. So it'll show up a little bit different in your feed. And it's just going to be the first class of Introduction to Biblical Hebrew. We're going to simulcast that both on the Road to Concord and We Who Are Lost, so that it's there. And we'll probably create the playlist actually for that on We Who Are Lost, because I expect most of the follow-up courses will be there. But just because it's normally our Road to Concord Day, we'll have it on both platforms. So just be ready for that and understand how that's going to work a little bit differently for you.
Yeah,
but
as Charlie takes you through that class, I've asked him to also help you learn how to better use an interlinear Bible and how it'll help you with your studies. Yeah. This is for when you study.
So. Right. And this will just be the first kicking off course. So in this, if you're wanting to learn this at all, it's going to take some work on your part, because I'm going to present it, but you're going to have to take it and actually do stuff with it. And there'll be some additional content that'll be eventually posted for show notes and stuff that you can reference and things like that. So
keep hanging with this class. You're going to think you're back in high school or college. Lots of homework to do.
Oh yeah. There is a lot of homework to do if you really want Do it.
I'll
You could be a full-time student here.
I'll tell you something else. Well, BC has already mentioned that if you hang out with us long enough, you get a college level education through this class. And folks, he's literally a nuclear scientist.
Yeah.
That classmate literally is a nuclear scientist.
The stuff you're doing with Ezekiel's wheels, that's doctorate level stuff as far as I'm concerned. Oh my gosh.
But here's the thing I was going to say. Turn off that TV. Put your phone down. Do some of this work. You'll be better served and you'll feel better inside, because that television is connected to 1984. And for people who say that George Orwell was just warning us,
no,
he wrote before TV was around.
Yeah, that was prophetic.
He was, but that was because he's part of the Fabians.
Oh, right.
They were boasting. That was Satan, and his plan now lives. You have no idea how many of y'all have TVs in your house that watch you watch it.
John.
So he's got a PhD in post hole digging.
Yep. PhD piled higher and deeper.
Yep. Well, I like the one that says the best education, and this is true. The best, most effective education you will ever receive is self-education. And a teacher performs his role or her role properly only when they are facilitating that self-education.
Yes. Oh, that
is very different from John Dewey.
Yeah, that's very true.
All right, folks. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Hopefully we edify you, educate you, help you think, help you learn, help you to apply your faith or whatever lesson or education we give you. Or if you're bored one day, go through some of the notes, the receipts we bring for you go to the blog pages. Just look through some of that stuff. We bring you things that you can check. And if you'll pay attention, a lot of times there's things in there that disagree with our position. I do read the other side of the fence. I read their writing. I read their thinking. It sometimes changes my thinking. More often than not, it shows me where I was weak, where my argument or my position is weak. And then I go and I do a little more study, a little more work, and lo and behold, I fix it. That's how that works. I would not be able to fix it if I was wrong. This is the point of transcendence. There's one capital T truth in a transcendent world. One truth for this, one truth for that. There's one set of laws or governing principles for everything in a transcendent world. So if your argument is a correct one, no matter what it is, you will not be able to fix it. If it's correct, you'll be able to fix it. If it's incorrect, you will not be able to fix it. That's the point. So studying the other side helps. And those are in our notes sometimes, but the point here is that there's a lot more we're doing for you to help you than just on these shows. You get out of it what you put into it for yourself. So it's a lot like your faith. Your faith will grow and be more productive, more fruitful for yourself and for others around you with the more you put into it. The more you put into this show, the more you'll get out of it. It's all up to you. We just offer it. If you like what we're doing, please hit the like buttons, please. That's not to help the show anymore. I don't care about that anymore. I've given up on that. I don't care. I'll do this show if there's just one of you here. I've got to do it because if I don't, the fire within will consume me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know if this is how, but this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So if you like it, hit the like button. That's your witness to anybody else that stumbles across this show that, hey, all right, so many people watched it, that many people liked it. Okay. Share the show if you think it is of value. It takes nothing from you but a couple of clicks on your social media. If you're ashamed of what the show is teaching and you don't want others that you know to be watching it, to know that you watch it, why are you watching us? Serious question. Why are you here? Not from you. Answer that for yourself. Okay, so be honest with yourself. So maybe you need to leave, or maybe you need to start thinking about clicking that button to help somebody else in your friend group. Have the courage of your convictions. Otherwise, you're just pretending. And then finally, if you do like what we're doing, make sure you subscribe and hit the like buttons, because we're going to start throwing a lot more extra content out soon that isn't part of the regular 1 hour daily shows. The only way you're going to know about it is if we either tell you, or if that's, it automatically notifies you because you subscribed. So for the rest of today, y'all just hug the ones that mean the most to you in your life. And if they're not close enough to hug them, call them. Pick up the phone and quit using the text. Quit with that. Go back to the way we used to use that phone years ago and call. There's magic in the human voice. There's nothing but lifelessness in that text message. At least that's my encouragement to you. Till we see each other again, we love you. Y'all stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.